What's going on, guys? Welcome to a new video on the channel. I'm currently in a hotel room. I brought my whole fucking setup on. Like, if only you could see what's going on in front of me right now. But I wanted to keep consistent. I'm actually in London right now, at a meeting. So I just wanted to get this content out for you guys because I had a pretty good schedule going. And today we're going to be talking about um, how to get smooth shading, the easiest way to get smooth shading. Now, I have a process and a way to do that in the easiest way, basically. And I'm going to tell you my trademarked way. It's called the Ayre Triangle, right? If you don't know about the Ayre Triangle, I do explain this in full detail in my course, the Shading Blueprint, on the Holy Grail tattooeducation.com. You can grab that and use code GRAIL10 for 10% off if you want the full in-depth examples, etc. And there's a full seminar in there as well, explaining the method I've I've explained, and it goes into like stenciling and tonal choice and all that crazy stuff, which is super important. It's one of the most important things in tattooing, in my opinion. So the Ayre Triangle is, let me see if I can get it up real quick. That's what she said. That is what she said. Let me see if I can get it up real quick. Bada bing, bada boom. So the Ayre Triangle, guys, is my way to give you the easiest way to shade, right? And with that being said, this is what it is just here. So the Ayre Triangle is, you've got 3 points of the triangle, a bit like the fire triangle. Now this is trademark, so don't you dare fucking nick this shit. Otherwise I will sue you. No, I was joking. Maybe I will. But yeah, no, so you have to know what your stroke is first, right? And once you know your stroke, is it a 3.5? Is it a 4.1 millimeter? Is it is it even a 3 millimeter stroke? This will determine your machine speed. That is a bit of a typo on the top there. It's not hand speed, it's machine speed. So you come down, once you know your stroke, you come down to the second point of the triangle, which is your machine speed, because that correlates with the stroke. So this is taken from my course, remember. So I go mad into detail in this, and show you examples, etc., on fake skin and human skin, etc. But yeah, so once you know your stroke, I use a 4.1 stroke in my ACUS machine. You find out what your stroke is. You go down to the second point of the triangle, which is clockwise. Machine speed, that will determine your machine speed, not hand speed, like it says in there, once again. If it's too fast for a high stroke machine, it will result in more trauma to the skin. And that's obviously what we want to do, guys. We want to tattoo and get the ink into the skin with the least amount of trauma, right? Slower so you have to set your machine speed slower volts for higher stroke machines, like a 4.1 and above, because that will be better for skin trauma. Now, hold on, wrong window. So the higher the speed, a higher speed is fine on a lower stroke because you've got more passes in the skin. You've got like this, I shouldn't really be telling you this because this is in my course, etc. And people have paid money for this, and I shouldn't really be giving you crazy amount of game, but I'm going to kind of briefly touch on this. If you do want to go and grab the course, you can. It's up to you. Be my guest, whatever. If you don't, it's cool. Do as you will, as they say. And so a higher speed machine is fine with a lower stroke, like a 3.5 or a 3.2 stroke or whatever you're using, because you've got more room for skin trauma, right? So you've got this, say you've got this is like a graph. At the top here, you've got high trauma and then low trauma. When you choose your stroke, if it's a higher stroke, you're at the other end, the top end of the skin trauma, right? If you use a middle stroke, you're at the middle, so you've got more room to maneuver and more passes in the skin. So the space between the top here is the amount of passes you've got in the skin before you start traumatizing it. So this is more trauma, this is least amount of trauma. So if you use a 5-stroke machine, you're going to be very close to the top. So this is for lining, this is like one pass type shit because you've only got a very minimal space here, right? And so I use a 4.1 stroke, which will be like 3/4. So then when you go into needle choices, like long taper needles, that allows more passes on the skin. So that will bring that down to here. And the thing is with the triangle, you need to have a fine balance between everything. It has to be a perfect synergy for you to get the ink in smooth, get the ink in quick with as least trauma to the skin as possible. That is the best way. And once every part of the triangle is perfected and executed right, then you will get this really nice uniformed dotted shading, really solid smooth shading. If you use a lower stroke machine, right, it'll start down here. Say this is a 3.2 stroke, yeah, you'll start down here. So you've got way more passes in the skin, but with a lower stroke machine, it's going to be harder to get the ink into the skin initially, right? So then you use a long taper needles, you've got even more passes, right? So, but it's how you want to, it's how you tattoo as an individual. Do you tattoo with layers? Do you slowly layer the ink into the skin, or do you want to get the ink in quick like I do? So it's least trauma. You know exactly what's going on. You can see it in the skin pretty much in the first 1 or 2 passes, and you don't have to go back over that. Especially if the client's got crazy skin to work with, like very sensitive skin. So you've got your stroke 4.1, for instance. A lot of you guys use 4.1 because you're following what I do, which is great. Get down to the machine speed. I typically run my ACUS at around. Well, it depends. It depends on how slow I want my hand speed, which is what we're going to go on to next. But if I run a 4.1 at 80 hertz, then I have to have quite a high hand speed because you can't spend too long on the skin in that area because it's quite a high stroke. Remember the graph, right? The little graph we've got going on here. High trauma, low trauma, 4.1 brings it down to about here with long taper needles. If I was to use medium taper needles, it will still pretty much be where it is because they're harsher on the skin than long taper needles. So this is the reason I use long taper needles, is because it allows more passes in the skin, so you've got more freedom to do what you need to do when you come to tattooing. This is scientific, bruv. So yeah, so if you have a high hand speed, this is where it gets into like techniques and stuff. This is how you judge what to determine your hand speed. Once you've got your stroke, your machine speed, to determine your hand speed, we look at the top right hand corner just here. This is what you want to achieve, and this is what you don't want to achieve. I see so many people online, on Instagram, whatever, having too fast a hand speed when they're shading for their machine speed, and you see these little like mag lines, they're called, right? And you'll see that in lining as well. You can see the little line. It's not as solid as these 2 lines here in the good section. So that's the reason why you have to match your hand speed with your machine speed to get the smooth shading. But you have to know why you're doing that, which is why I've talked about stroke, I've talked about machine speed. If the client's skin is red and you have got a 3.5, say you're using a Bishop shader, right? 3.5 stroke machine, scale again, sits about here, right in the middle. You're using long taper needles, bang. You've got all this room here. You've got all these passes in the skin to work with, right? But it's still really red. And at a 3.5 stroke machine, you're running your machine. So for the Bishop shader, I would run it a tiny bit faster than the 4.1 because you've got more lee room, more time in the skin before it gets traumatized. So when you put your machine up, it gets that, it reduces the skin trauma scale. Because you're running the machine fast, you have to have a faster hand speed to suit the machine speed, if you get what I'm saying. I hope you're following this. I'm trying to explain it as well as possible and as easy and alien as possible. But yeah, once you've got the stroke and your machine speed and your hand speed all in synergy, you will get this type of shading. But going back to the redness of the skin, if the client's skin is still red, then you need to drop your volts. There's times where I used to use the Bishop shader back in the day, where I had a client's skin was just super red. Sometimes you can't get around it. You can't escape the redness. It's just their skin. It's just what happens. You have to tattoo a part. And this is where skill comes into it and experience. You tattoo a part, you think it's good. This is why I like using a 4.1 stroke, because in 2 passes you see it's in before it gets red, before the redness takes over. This is why I use the 4.1 stroke machine. But you have to know why you're using it and know when a client's skin is really sensitive. You then get it in, you see it, right, okay, I can see that light tone in there, and then within a minute or two it goes super red, blotchy. You move on to the next area. You just have to trust your experience and trust your instinct that that is in there. Wait for it to die down over 10, 15, half an hour, right, minutes, and then you can go back into it if you need to saturate it a bit more. That's the reason I like using a 4.1 stroke. But yeah, I hope this is just a quick explanation on how to get smooth shading the best and easiest way. This is trademarked, so don't steal this shit. This is come from my head. So you have to get all sides of the triangle exactly spot on to get this. Sometimes you'll be, rushing it a bit, or your natural flow and your natural speed of tattooing will come into it, and you'll start to get these mag lines, these ugly mag lines a tiny bit. That's where you just have to be conscious about it. Look at the skin, look at how soft the shading is. Do I see mag lines? I do. Okay, cool. I'll just slow my hand speed down. Slow. That's the best way you can do it. If you see these ugly lines, slow your hand speed down. That is the best advice I can give you guys. Please drop a like on the video. Please subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.